Dallas Races Net, first and third Sunday, 8 p.m., W5FC. This is the W5FC repeater, PL110.9.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
anyone need to use the repeater before we begin PM Skynet? This is KF5TDS. My name is Billy, and I'll be your net control for this section of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign break and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic? The directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control. That would be me. And stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmissions. Weekly net operates on 146.880 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FC-R station ID or Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Go to www.w5fc.org right now for the complete list. And remember to tell others about this popular net. All amateur operators are welcome. You need not be a member of any amateur radio to participate. The net is 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts. General announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope, National Space Society events, discussion topic of the evening, What's Up, space exploration and space history, installation of the week, space launches of the week, recent astronomical discoveries, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days, astronomical Q&A, and our semi-free round. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in, so at this time I'll turn the net over to my alternate net control, Tom, KE5ICX, if you will do the check-in.
Thank you, Miss Billy, and I'll do exactly that. This is Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray. My name's Tom, and I'm your alternate net control this evening. I'll go ahead and take low-power short-time check-ins. If you are one of those, please come with your call sign phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from. Let me know if you're low-power short-time.
This is Whiskey Bravo number 4, Mike Foxtrot India, WB4MFI, Ted Dallas, low power.
This is Kilo India 5, Uniform Juliet, Dustin in North Dallas, low power.
Okay, I've picked up WB4MFI, that's Ted in Dallas, he's low power. KI5UUJ, that's Justin, Dallas, also low power. Anyone else low power short time, please come now. All right, we'll go ahead and get started with general check-ins. Please come now with your call sign phonetically, your name, and where you're transmitting from.
Kilo 5, Golf Lima Delta, Randy Rally.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas.
Kilo, Dave, Garland.
Kilo Golf 5, Uniform Foxtrot Romeo, Jacob, Farmers Branch.
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brenda in DeSoto.
This is Alpha Golf 5, Papa Mike, Rich and Rockwall, AG 5 p.m.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Zulu Bravo Lima, Bill, Farmers Branch.
Okay, let's see. I'm going to need one fill in all of that. I've got WB4. Well, I already got you. I've got K5GLD. That's Randy and Rowlett. NT5TM Tony in Dallas. And then I think it's James in Arlington. You got covered over. Can I get your call sign and confirm your name and location? Please come out. All right, I may have mangled that so badly I haven't correctly identified that person, so we'll get you on the next round. KG5UFR, that's Jacob at Farmers Branch. WB50ZL, Brenda in DeSoto. AG5PM, Rich in Rockwall. And KF5ZBL, Mr. Bill in Farmers Branch. I'll take additional check-ins.
Kilo Golf 5, Oscar Quebec, Kilo, Dave in Garland. This is Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor Lima, James in Carrollton.
All right, we're starting out a little slow, but it is summer. I got my mystery guy. That's KG5 Oscar Quebec Lima. James over in Garland. I mangled it so badly it looked like Arlington. So, James, thank you for coming back. KG5 W Victor Lima. That is James in Carrollton. Got two James, no waiting. Any additional check-ins before I go to Echolink? Ooh, it's so quiet out there. All right, I'll go over to Echolink. It's also quiet, but I think there's a guy out there. Let's find out if his signal works. So, Chaz, KF5JHA, I'm sure you want to check in. Everybody else is accounted for. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much. This is KF5JJ from Lockbourne, Ohio, over Echolink.
Okay, we got KF5JHA, Chaz over in Rockburn, Ohio. You're coming through just fine, so you'll be able to do your presentation. So get away from the refrigerator and stay in your seat. Okay, I'll try one more time. Any additional check-ins, please come now before we begin the net.
Net control, there's a correction.
Yeah, go ahead.
Kilo Golf 5, Oscar Quebec, Kilo, Dave in Garland.
Oh, Dave, I'm sorry. I've just mangled everything about you today. So I got Kilo Golf 5, Oscar, Quebec, Kilo. That's Dave in Garland. All right. One of these days I'll get it right for you, Dave. I'm sorry. But I got it now. Any additional check-ins, please come now.
Kilo Golf 5, Uniform Kilo Uniform, David, Mesquite.
Okay, I've got Kilo Golf 5, Uniform Kilo Uniform, David in Mesquite. Did I get your prefix right, David?
Yes, sir, KG5 UKU.
All right, thank you. And Chaz is correcting me and saying he's in Lockbourne, Ohio. I guess they have locks there. Okay. All right, we're up to 15. I'll send it back to our net control. Billy from KE5I6.
Thank you, Tom, and welcome to all who have checked into Skynet. All right, let's start with general announcements. Do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? These can be ham, astronomical, space, or of general interest to licensed hams. If you have an announcement for the net, please come now with your call sign.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
Yeah, I'm Tony. Good evening. What announcements do you have for us this evening?
Good evening, Billy. Well, tonight is a special night. We could spend a lot of time talking about Armageddon, the Bruce Willis movie from 1998, or not. I don't know what will happen, but in any case, it may be the highest budget movie we've ever discussed on an Afterglow Net. That discussion will take place tonight at 10:30-ish, maybe a little late if this net is busy and runs long, which is always okay. Tomorrow, this repeater will be out of action early in the morning because of a repeater work session, but hopefully back online around lunchtime. This coming Monday is a fifth Monday, a surprise net. What's going to happen? I don't know. It's going to be a surprise. Maybe I'll pick something. Maybe you'll pick something. Send an email to nets@w5fc.org. That's what I've got, NT5TM.
Thanks, Tony. Are there any other announcements for this evening's net? If so, please come now with your call sign. Not hearing anything, so I'll go ahead with some announcements of my own. The AMSAT Radio Amateur Satellite Group has 2 nets available to Dallas residents on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Central Time. You'll need Echolink installed and you registered. You can find the net under Groups and AMSAT. Also, a live audio link is available on their website at www.amsatnet.com. This net originates in Houston, Texas. The Dallas AMSAT Net East, Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, is every Tuesday at 8 p.m. on this repeater, 146.880 megahertz, with a TL tone of 110.9. Tom N5HYP is the net control. All are welcome to check in. First Tuesday of the month is the DARC Club Night, so there's no AMSAT East on that night. Dallas AMSAT Net West is every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater, 147.140 megahertz, with a PL tone of 110.9 and a positive offset. And the DARC hosts several Monday night nets. The first Monday of the month is Hand Fixin's Net. Come to Hand Fixin's to get the scoop on all kinds of recipes. If you have a recipe to share or a food anecdote or question, all is welcome on Hand Fixin's Net. Second Monday of the month is MCOM 101, Emergency Communications. The third Monday of the month, come back for a second helping of Hand Fixin's Net. And fourth Monday is Geek Net. And as Tony mentioned, whenever there's a fifth Monday, there is a surprise net. If we told you what it is, it wouldn't be a surprise. On-air participation is encouraged. Tuesdays, AMSAT East, 8 p.m., question answers, info, and news for amateur satellites. And on Fridays, Search City simulation at 8 p.m. Learn about emergency radio communications via CERT-trained amateur radio operators. Melissa, KI5BRH, is usually the net control. This is the most disaster-prone city in the universe. Every Friday, Search City, all are welcome. And Saturdays is the Night of Net, with TechNet from 7 to 8 p.m., and of course at 9 p.m., Skynet. And as Tony mentioned, following Skynet is the Afterglow Movie Net. More on that in a moment. First and third Sundays is the Radio Club meeting on the air. Daily, we have the ARRL Net National Traffic System Training Net every night at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. All are welcome to check in on any or all of these nets. As Tony mentioned, following Skynet every Saturday night at 10:30 p.m., we have the Afterglow Movie Net. If you're to this net, the way the Afterglow works is we take suggestions from the group on what movies to watch, usually sci-fi movies. They could be recent movies or older, like B-movie, classic sci-fi, and we'll pick one to watch during the week, and then we will come back to the Afterglow Movie Net, and we will discuss that movie. We'll discuss everything from plot, characterization, music, special effects, and any other trivia and tidbits related to the film. Then we'll pick a movie to watch for the coming week. So the Afterglow movie is very time discussing each week's movie. This time I'll turn the net over to Tom, KE5ICX, if you'll please give us tonight's Afterglow info from KF5 PBS.
Thank you, Ms. Billy, and I always pride myself on the accuracy of the teaser for tonight's Afterglow Movie Net. So here it is. The director stared at the writer suspiciously. It had been several hours, and the NASA scientist turned creative consultant stared back at the director. It was a Mexican standoff. The writer spoke. If an asteroid were to impact Earth, all life would be wiped out. To stop such an event from happening, one would have to send a small spacecraft to make an impact months, perhaps years in the future, and make a small change in the trajectory. Then the asteroid would simply pass Earth without incident. The director spoke. Listen, nerd, I put you in a high school locker for 5 hours for a reason. I need an exciting script with Bruce Willis at the helm. I need Die Hard in space. And you're going to deliver it to me if I have to stick you back in there. I want explosions, blood, and hauling ass space shuttles. I need Billy Bob Thornton doing something in this movie and not him sitting around smoking pot and popping lewds in boring scenes. The director motioned to the two henchmen. Put them back in there, to the locker, and play some old Jefferson Airplane on 11. Join us for Armageddon from 1999, 1998. I'll get it. Tonight at 10:30 p.m. And if you haven't seen it, it's 2 hours and 20 minutes long. Why? Nobody knows. Back to net control. This is KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. And you can keep up with all the DARC net events and activities by going to the club website, w5fc.org. All right, next up is Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope. So at this time, I'll turn the net over to Chaz, KF5JHA, as he'll give us information about Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas.
Good evening, everyone, again. This is Chaz, and the next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting will be held on Friday, June the 24th at 7:30 p.m. The meeting will be an in-person meeting at the University of Dallas, as well as held on Zoom. Now, the last one was held just last night, and it was the first one in person in over 2 years, so that was spectacular. I didn't make it in person, but I was on the Zoom segment of it, and it worked out pretty well. There were, I think, twice as many people in person as there was on the Zoom link. So, anyway, the featured speaker next month on June the 24th will be Dr. Joe Howard from NASA. He's the lead optical designer for the James Webb Space Telescope. This is going to be a really good meeting, in my opinion. So, Task Club members will receive an email link to the Zoom meeting in about a week or so in advance of the meeting. But also, remember, you can go in person. Now, the Saturday night public observing sessions have already begun. One of the reasons why Skynet was picked to be on Saturday night, so that there would be an opportunity for live reports that come from the TASS public observing sessions that are also held on Saturday night. Check the TASS website, texasastro.org, for detailed, up-to-date information about the meetings and the public observing sessions. I don't think there's one going on tonight. Obviously, it's a holiday weekend, but maybe next week, next Saturday night, there should be one as long as the weather is good. So hopefully that'll happen. All right, so back to our net control. Billy, KF5PDS. This is KF5JHA. It's all back to you.
Chaz. This is KF5PDS, Billy, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. All right, next up is National Space Society events and activities. Bill, N5BB, is in Washington, D.C. at the ISGC 2022 conference, which is the International Space Development Conference. So we do have some images to share with National Space Society North Texas chapter members standing with a few folks. Jaco Karas, the chief engineer of Ingenuity helicopter, standing in the center with a light suit and dark tie. Jaco gave a keynote speech to the conference. The woman on the far right of the photo is Anita Gale, the CEO of National Space Society. Ken Ruffin is standing to the left. He is the president of the National Space Society North Texas chapter. And Bill Byram, N5BB, is membership director of the NSS North Texas chapter, is wearing a dark suit and standing next to Jaco Karas. So the National Space Society North Texas chapter won the 2022 NSS Chapter of the Year Award, and below are the 6 members of our chapter who attended ISGC this year with the This is Bill with N5BD holding the NSS of North Texas Chapter of the Year Award. And look at information on their website, nssofnt.org. The next meeting of the NSS North Texas Chapter will be at Spring Creek Barbecue in Irving, which is at Highway 183 at Beltline Road at 3:30 p.m. on Sunday afternoon, June 12th. For more information about National Space Society, contact Bill Byram, N5BB, at space@byram.net or n5bb@arrl.net. Bill is the membership director of the local NSS chapter. The National Space Society of North Texas has an active Facebook page. Just type National Space Society of North Texas into the search box and request access. You'll receive meeting reminders and club activities. Next up is discussion topic of the evening. So for this, I've selected an article entitled, "A Comet is Tearing Apart and Will Make for a Spectacular Night Sky Meteor Shower." This article comes to us courtesy of hothardware.com, written by Tim Sweezy, posted Monday, May 23rd, 2022. Tau Herculid meteor shower could provide an epic display in the late night sky at the May this year. Predictions come to fruition. The nights of May 30th through the 31st may provide for a rare meteor outburst, or there may simply be nothing at all. The comet responsible for all the hype is 73P-Schwarzmann-Wachmann 3, also known as SW3. It was first detected in 1930 from the Hamburg Observatory by astronomers Arthur Wachmann and Karl Schwarzmann as SW3 moves through the constellation Hercules. However, even though the comet passed only 5.7 million miles from Earth, it was never bright enough for the human eye to spot in the night sky. It was only viewable through a pair of good binoculars or a telescope. SW3 performed a disappearing act of sorts as it went missing between 1935 and 1974. During that time, it passed by 8 times without being seen. It wasn't until March of 1979 that it finally reappeared, with its next viewing not until early 1990s. In 1995, numerous reports from observers throughout the world began rolling in to the central astronomical program of a comet in the western Pacific and having a dust tail 1 degree long. To the surprise of many, the comet was in fact SW3. It was shining 6.5 magnitudes brighter than they had anticipated, which equated to a nearly 400-fold increase in brightness. The reason for SW3 finally being viewable by the naked eye was due to the fact that it had fractured into 4 parts. The discovery of the comet coming apart was made by observations at the European Southern Observatory in Lucia, Chile. It remained bright as it passed by once again in the fall of 2000, revealing that 2 of the fragments were spotted in 1995 were still there, along with a new one which more than likely broke off during the 1995 passing. Time SW3 came back around in the spring of 2006, it initially showed at least 8 remnants, with some of the fragments now showing their own sub-fragments. The Hubble Space Telescope recorded dozens of fragments on April 18, 2006, and the Spitzer Space Telescope showed 45 comet chunks between May 4th and May 6th. In all, SW3 had broken up into more than 68 fragments, with its most recent showing in 2017 showing signs of it continuing to break apart. SW3 breaking apart as it is, it has brought up the conversation of possible new meteor showers being produced as it passes close to Earth. Used by experts around the world suggest that the passing of SW3 in late May of this year could very likely produce a new meteor shower in the night sky. Predictions point to a 1 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time on Tuesday, May 31st, or 10 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time on Monday, May 30th, depending on where you're located. Cook, who leads NASA's Meteoroid Environment Office at NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville, Alabama, this is going to be an all-or-nothing event. If the debris from SW3 was traveling more than 220 miles per hour when it separated from the comet, we might see a nice meteor shower. If the debris had slower ejection speeds, then nothing will make it to Earth, and there will be no meteors from this comet. Anyone who is hoping to view the possible Tau Herculid meteor shower should do so from a location away from as much city light as possible. City lights can pollute the night sky and make it more difficult to view comet debris as it enters Earth's atmosphere. Be sure to share any photos and videos. The possible meteor shower with them here at Hot Hardware as well. Again, that article was from hothardware.com. This is KFI TDS, Billy, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Next up is What's Up, but before we get to that, I'm going to turn the net over to Tom, the alternate net control, KE5ICS. If you'll do a check-in round, I'd like to check into this evening's net, and then you have my permission to turn it over directly to Chaz after your check-in round. So to KE5ICS from KF5 TDS.
Very good. I'll do exactly that. Looks like we're getting some activity over on Echolink too, so I will give them a chance to check in as well. So we'll start with over air. If you'd like to join us, please come now with your call sign phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from. Welcome to Skynet.
KD0 OXC, Carter in Dallas.
November 5, Oscar Foxtrot, Clay in Mesquite.
Kilo Bravo 9.
Delta 5, second Papa X-ray. That's WD5 BTX. Bobby, Low Point.
G5, Bravo Charlie, Shane.
Ambassador Blue Springs. Hi, Dallas.
G5 to TNF, Austin.
All right, just discombobulating here. I've got KD5OXE, that's Carter in Dallas. I got N50F Clay in Mesquite. Next one was Echolink. I got WD5BPX. There may have been another station in there that got covered over, but WD5BPX. Can I get your name and your location because we missed that?
Yeah, that was Whiskey Delta 5, Vega Papa X-ray. That's Bobby, and Will Point, Texas.
All right, I got you that. WD5 BPX, that's Bobby Wills Point. Welcome back. And W0MBC, that's Shane and Bethany. They're back as well. Welcome, gang. We're glad to have you back. I got KG5TNF, that's Johnny. He's in Austin. So nice Echolink representation this evening. Let me see any additional check-ins before I turn it over to the next segment. Anyone else like to join us? Please come now with your call sign, your name, where you're transmitting from.
Kilo Delta 5, Tango Echo Oscar.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Shauna forward.
Okay, we picked up two more. I got KD5TEO. If you don't mind, could I have your name and your location? Welcome to the net.
Sorry about that. I forgot to put that in there. Name here is Nathan, and I'm in Dallas, over by White Rock Lake.
Very good. Thank you, Nathan. Thanks for checking in over there in Dallas near White Rock Lake. And I got KB9SOK. That's Sean on the other end of the universe in Fort Worth. Okay, well, let me try one more time. We had a bunch of late check-ins, or late tour check-ins, not late. If you'd like to join us, please come with your call sign, name, and where you're transmitting from.
Skynet.
think we got everybody. Let's go to Chaz, K5JHA. Tell us what's up from KE5ICX.
Good evening, everyone. Once again, this is Chaz, KF5JHA. My degree is in astrophysics, and I'm in charge of the astrophysics lab and geology lab at the Dallas College on the Brookhaven campus. And we do call this segment of Skynet What's Up? Slide Master. By the way, that would be Tom, our alternate control. He's also the Slide Master. Slide Master, slide number 2, please. On May the 22nd, the moon was at its third quarter phase. So the current phase of the moon is a waning crescent. On May 30th, the moon will be new. On June the 1st, the moon will be at apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth at a distance of 406,192 kilometers. On June the 7th, the moon will be at its first quarter. On June the 14th, the moon is full. And also on June the 14th, the moon is at perigee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth at a distance of 357,432 kilometers. Slide Master, slide number 3, please. Now, on May 29th, we've got a couple of things going on. First of all, there'll be a wonderful conjunction between Jupiter and Mars, and they'll only be about a half a degree apart from each other in the early morning eastern sky. That's the first thing. Slide Master, slide number 4. Also on May the 29th, around 6 a.m., looking toward the very low eastern morning sky, during strong twilight, you can see the moon being only about 5 degrees to the right of the Pleiades, and the planet Mercury is about 2 degrees just to the lower right of the moon. You'll probably need binoculars in order to see this event because of the strong twilight. But May the 29th, pretty busy. Also, don't forget, I don't have a slide for this, but don't forget that on the night of May the 31st, you're going to have the Tau Herculean meteor shower that we just heard from our net control about. Billy talked a whole bunch about that, so please remember that. Slide Master, slide number 5. On June the 11th, the planets Venus and Uranus will only be about 1.5 degrees apart in the eastern morning sky. You'll probably need to, again, use a telescope or at least a good pair of binoculars to see the planet Uranus, because it's kind of faded. You're in a dark, clear sky away from the city lights, well, you actually can see Uranus with just your 2 eyes. Slide Master, slide number 6. On June, Lyrid meteor shower peaks on the night of June the 16th, 17th, and is estimated to have 20 or more meteors per hour. The best time to observe meteors, of course, is the hour before dawn in the early morning. As I always do, I suggest visiting one of the 80 state parks or wildlife refuges where you can actually camp, and most are far away from the city line. And Slide Master, slide number 7, Saturn and the moon will be in conjunction on June the 18th in the early morning southern sky. And this is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 8, please. Once again, the next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting will be held on Friday, June the 24th at 7:30 p.m. And the meeting will be in person at the University of Dallas, as well as held on Zoom. Featured speaker is going to be Joe Howard, the lead optical designer for the James Webb Space Telescope. I think it's going to be a great meeting. You can find out details about that meeting, plus our resumed observing sessions that held on Saturday night, by going to the website, texasastro.org. Now, Slide Master, slide number 9, please. Now, do any of you out there in Radioland have any questions or need a fill on any of the information? Or maybe you just have a general astronomy question. I don't know everything, but I might know the answer to your question. Or maybe someone else here on the net might know the answer to your question. Come down with your call sign if you have a question or need a fill. hey, theory, nothing. So as the moon waned at the end of April and as it is waning now at the end of May, so do these words for this segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. It's the only one where humans live, at least for the moment, and pray for the people of Ukraine. And until next week, well, actually, next segment that I'm doing is in a few minutes, keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is Chaz, KF5JJ, back to our net control.
Thank you, Chaz. This is KF5TDS, Billy, your net control for the session Skynet. All right, next up is space exploration and space history. So at this time, I will turn the net over to Brenda, WB5OZL. The net is yours.
Thanks, Billy. This is WB5OZL. Space exploration news. NASA says something strange is happening with our universe and how quickly it's expanding. Scientists have been studying new data from the Hubble Space Telescope. They say the expansion rate has become quicker compared to the expectations. You're getting the most precise measure of the expansion rate for the universe from the gold standard of telescopes and cosmic mile markers, said Nobel laureate Adam Rice of the Space Telescope Science Institute at Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore, Maryland. Observations also showed other galaxies are moving away from our Milky Way faster, but scientists can't figure out why, so all they're saying for now is that something bizarre is underway. The cause of this discrepancy remains a mystery, but Hubble data, encompassing a variety of cosmic objects that serve as distance markers, support the idea that something weird is going on, possibly involving brand new physics, officials said in a news release. Next, the James Webb tracks an asteroid. NASA's Next Generation Space Observatory successfully watched a moving asteroid as the telescope inches towards the end of its 6-month commissioning period. A successful tracking of nearby objects shows that James Webb Space Telescope can keep a watch on solar system objects as well as distant galaxies, stars, and other faraway objects that it's expected to observe in its perhaps 20-year lifespan. As we move forward through commissioning, we will test other objects moving at various speeds to verify we can study objects with Webb that move through the solar system, NASA wrote in a blog post May 19th, adding that the observatory is nearly set to start science observations. Webb's ability to see nearby targets will allow it to observe everything from icy objects in the Kuiper Belt to potentially habitable moons circling gas giant planets of our solar system, the agency noted. The asteroid selected for the observing exercise was 6841 Tenzing, a main belt asteroid named after Tenzing Norgay. The Tibetan mountaineer was one of the first known humans to summit Mount Everest alongside Edmund Hillary. Coincidentally, the Webb observations took place just days before the 69th anniversary of their summit on May 29, 1953. Boeing's CST-100 Starliner spacecraft completed its touchdown at 6:49 p.m. Wednesday, May 25th at White Sands Space Harbor in New Mexico, wrapping up the uncrewed orbital flight test 2 as part of NASA's commercial crew program. Starliner settled gently into its airbags following a parachute-assisted landing that helps set the stage for future crewed landings. The landing followed a deorbit burn at 6:05 p.m., separation of the spacecraft service module, and successful deployment of its 3 main parachutes and 6 airbags. Next, ham radio on the ISS. On May 25th, 2022, Roscosmos cosmonaut Oleg Artemyev installed a new amateur radio equipment in the Russian segment of the ISS, 2 Kenwood TM D710GA transceivers. The transceivers were delivered on February 17, 2022 to the Space Transport Cargo Ship Progress MS-19. According to the work schedule, Oleg Artemyev successfully dismantled the old amateur radio equipment and put the new one in the vacant place. Tests are expected in the coming days. Birthdays. Ronald Parisi, May 24th, 1951. He flew on STS-35 and 67. Nathan J. Lindsay, May 24th, 1936. No missions. John D. Olivas, May 25th, 1965. STS-117 and 128. Sally Ride, May 26th, 1951. STS-7 and 41G. Paul Scully Power, May 28, 1944, and he flew on STS-41G. This week in space history. 60 years ago, Scott Carpenter orbits the Earth aboard Aurora 7. On May 24th, 1962, astronaut Scott Carpenter completed America's second orbital space flight during the Mercury Atlas 7 mission. Carpenter flew the mission after doctors grounded the prime crew member. Astronaut Donald K. Deke Slayton due to a minor heart condition. Naming his spacecraft Aurora 7, Carpenter completed 3 orbits of the Earth, conducting several experiments including photography of the planet. A problem with the spacecraft's attitude and the late firing of its retro rockets during the critical re-entry burn resulted in Aurora 7 splashing down 250 miles off course. Carpenter waited in his life raft for more than an hour before rescue teams recovered him and flew him safely to the prime recovery ship, the USS Intrepid aircraft carrier. Years ago, the United States and the Soviet Union signed a space cooperation agreement. During the 1960s, collaboration in the space arena between the United States and the Soviet Union remained at a low level. The relationship characterized more by competition than cooperation. In the climate of détente in the early 70s, the two nations began discussions to develop a common docking system. On May 24, 1972, during their summit meeting in Moscow, leaders of the United States and the Soviet Union, President Richard M. Nixon and Premier Alexei N. Kosygin, signed an agreement on cooperation in space. One of its articles called for the development of a joint system to allow their spacecraft to dock with each other in orbit, laying the groundwork for the Apollo-Soyuz test project, the first international human spaceflight carried out in July 1975. And finally, 51 years ago, on May 25th, 1961, wait, that may be never mind the math. It was on May 25th, 1961, President John F. Kennedy gave a historic speech before a joint session of Congress that set the United States on a course to the moon. In his speech, Kennedy called for an ambitious space exploration program that included not just missions to put astronauts on the moon, but also a rover, nuclear rocket, weather satellites, and other space projects. And that is back to net, WB5OZL.
Thanks very much, Brenda. Linda. All right, next up is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. Once again, I'm going to turn it over to Tom, KE5ICX, if you'll do another check-in round, see if we have anybody out there that would like to check into this evening's net. And then you have my permission to turn it over directly to Chaz for his segment on Constellation of the Week. So this is to KE5ICX from KF5CDS.
This is Alpha Alpha 5, Alpha Hotel, Robert Richardson.
And I've got AA5AH, Robert Richardson. We'll take additional check-ins. If you'd like to join us, please come now with your call sign name, where you're transmitting from. Okay, we'll go over to Chaz, KF5JHA. Chaz, what do you got for us with Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week from KE5ICX?
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Billy, and good evening once again, everyone. I'm broadcasting tonight live from beautiful downtown Lockbourne, Ohio. So anyway, slide master, slide number 11. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of Silent Key Carolyn, KC5OZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week, almost from its beginning in 2012 until May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Since there are about 52 easily visible constellations seen in Texas throughout the week, throughout the year, out of the 88 total constellations, so Miss Carolyn covers the entire sky as seen over North Texas in a year. And in her honor, we've continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week this week is Virgo, the Maiden. Okay, slide master, slide number 12. This is what everyone's been waiting for. Bethany's waiting for this. I know she is, because she wants more jokes. So here we go. I love being married. I'm not really married, but it's a joke. Okay. I love being married. How do you fill in the blank? It's great to find a lady to annoy for the rest of your life. Okay, there you go. The next one. A lady asked the bank teller to check her balance. The teller pushed her over. I guess she didn't balance very well. What did the lady fall down the well? Why did that lady fall down the well? I've got to read these correctly. Because she didn't see that well. That's funny. I gave my seat to a lady on the bus, and the next day I lost my job as a driver. Okay, that's enough for the moment. Slide master, slide number 13, please. Okay, Virgo can be easily found by using the Big Dipper. Follow the arc of the handle of the Big Dipper to the star Arcturus in the constellation of Boötes. Then continue to arc to spy the star Spica. Spica is the brightest star at Virgo. But I'm not going to talk about Spica because Virgo is famous for its galaxies. Virgo has so many galaxies that I could spend a couple of hours describing them all. But since we've got another activity around 10:30, I'm not going to do that. We're going to go on to slide number 14, please. The constellation of Virgo is the center of the closest large cluster of galaxies to us, and it can easily take up several evenings of those observing time just to look at some of them. If you look at the video version of Skynet, that's over, well, one of the places you can see the video version is YouTube. All the little red ellipses that you see are galaxies, so are the blue ones. Those are just the bright ones. There are thousands of galaxies in this area. In some cases, it's difficult to move a whole telescope field of view without seeing several galaxies. A good star atlas is a must in this region for identifying all the galaxies visible in a telescope or of moderate aperture. While I'm going to be describing the brighter members here, I encourage all of you to try navigating this area. It would be hard not to improve your observing skills by meeting this challenge head on. I've had a challenge doing this in years past. Slide master, slide number 15. M58 with dimensions of about 5 minutes by 2 minutes. This is one of the larger spiral galaxies in this region. It is a spindle shape oriented northeast to southwest in a broadly concentrated center. There is a relatively bright star near to the west. Slide master, slide number 16. M61 is a galaxy that is face-on spiral, about 6 minutes by 4 minutes, oriented north-northeast to south-southwest. It is fairly even in brightness, except for its stellar nucleus with some faint modeling on its eastern and western side. Oh, they're talking about galaxy cars over on Echolink. Yeah, if you're not on Echolink, you've got to get on Echolink. Slide Masters, slide number 17. M84 and M86 are relatively bright galaxies that are very similar in appearance and are visible in the same low-power field of view. They're both considered spiral galaxies with no visible arms. M84 is round and about 3 minutes in diameter and has a large 1 minute diameter core and a stellar nucleus. M86 is larger, about 4 minutes in diameter, and fainter, and it also has a stellar nucleus. Slide master, slide number 18, please. M87, this is a very bright galaxy, about 4 minutes in diameter, with a large core and non-stellar nucleus. It's an elliptical galaxy, and most elliptical galaxies are the largest galaxies in our universe. So it's a good thing to go take a look at this one easily. We've talked about the black hole at the center of this one, and I believe this was the galaxy that we first imaged a black hole from in 2019 from. Slide master, slide number 19. M108 is the Sombrero Galaxy. You've probably heard of the Sombrero Galaxy. I saved the best object for last. This is one of the finest showpiece objects in the sky. It's beautiful edge-on spiral, about 10 minutes by 2 minutes in size, oriented east to west, and has an obvious central bulge with a distinct dark lane running right through the center of the galaxy. This is an object which should not be missed. I last looked at it about a year ago near the Big Bend location, actually on the Fruit Ranch, during the West Texas Star Party. Slide master, slide number 20. This is KF5 JHA, and this is Skynet. Okay. There are a few more Astronomical League observing program objects in the constellation of Virgo the Maiden. I've just given you a sampling of a few of those objects. The Astronomical League has about 73 different observing programs, most of which have about 100 objects. If you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pin from the Astronomical League in about a year. Slide master, slide number 21, and that is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, Virgo the Maiden. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for the research and words on deep sky objects that I've used, borrow, and steal every Skynet. I also at times use the website constellation-guide.com for information. Now next time I'll be talking about Libra, the scales. And this is KF5 JHA sending it back to our net control Billy. KF5 PDS, it's all yours.
Appreciate all that you do for our net. All right, next up is space launches for this week. So at this time, I will turn the net back to Tom, KE5ICX, if you'll know about space launches for this week from KF5CDS.
Thank you, Miss Billy. This is KE5ICX again, and we got a lot of stuff going on in June. I only covered some of them this evening, but here we go. There is June 3rd, a Progress 81P launch from Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. The Russian Soyuz rocket will launch the 81st Progress cargo delivery ship to the International Space Station. The rocket will fly in the Soyuz 2.1A configuration. In early June, there'll be a Long March 2F launch of the Shenzhou 14. This will launch the spacecraft with 3 Chinese astronauts to rendezvous and dock with the Chinese space station in low Earth orbit. This will be China's 9th crewed and the 3rd for the Chinese station. Sometime on June 6th, there is a specific time at 5:20 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. There'll be a launch from Launch Complex 1B in Mahia Peninsula in New Zealand. The Electron rocket will launch NASA's CIS Lunar Autonomous Positioning System Technology Operations and Navigation Experiment, Capstone, mission to the moon. Capstone will fly to the moon on Rocket Lab's Photon space tug, entering a unique halo-like lunar orbit to test deep space navigation and communications in the same orbit to be used by NASA's Gateway Mini Space Station. On June 7th, there'll be a Falcon 9 launch from Launch Complex 39A at Kennedy Space Center. The Falcon 9 rocket will launch Dragon 2 spacecraft on its 5th cargo resupply mission to the International Space Station. The Falcon 9 first stage booster will land on a drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. The flight is the 25th mission by SpaceX conducted under the Commercial Resupply Services contract with NASA. On June 10th, another Falcon 9 launch, this time from SLC-40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. The rocket will launch the Nilesat 301 geostationary communications satellite. 301, built by South Alina Space, will provide digital broadband and internet connectivity services for the Egyptian operator Nilesat. The Falcon 9 first stage booster will land on a drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. Next up is the Astra 3.3. This will be launched from the SLC-46 at Cape Canaveral Space Force. A commercial small satellite launch vehicle developed by Astra will launch a first pair of small CubeSats for NASA's Tropics mission. The time-resolved observations of precipitation, structure, and storm intensity with the constellation of small sats or Tropics missions will measure environmental and intercore conditions for tropical cyclones. After that, Starlink 4-19 on a Falcon 9 will launch from Launch Complex 39A, Kennedy. This is another batch of Starlink Internet satellites. Falcon 9's first stage booster will, everybody say it together, land on a drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. During the summer, there will be the Alpha multi-payload. This will launch from Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. A Firefly Alpha rocket will launch on its second test flight with a rideshare payload consisting of multiple unspecified small satellites. In June, we have also the demonstrational launch of the SSLV. This is Satish Dhawan Space Center in Sriharikota, India. The small satellite vehicle, SSLV, will launch on its first orbital test flight consisting of 3 solid-fueled stages and a liquid-fueled upper stage. The SSLV is a new Indian launch vehicle designed to carry small satellites into low Earth orbit. June 22nd, here we got a big boy. This would be the Ariane 5 launching from ELA-3 in Kourou, French Guiana. The Ariane 5 ECA rocket, designated BA-257, to launch the MESAT 3D and GSAT 2-4 communication satellites. The MESAT 3D is a multi-mission communication satellite outfitted with C-band, Ku-band, and Ka-band payloads for direct-to-home TV broadcasting and internet services over Asia, the Middle East, and Africa. GSAT-24 is a direct-to-home TV broadcasting satellite for the Indian Space Research Organization. We also have in June from SLC-46 in Cape Canaveral Space, Florida, the Tropics 3 and 4 missions. These will be developed by Astra, who will launch a second pair of CubeSats for NASA's Tropics mission. Time-resolved observation of precipitation structure and storm intensity with the constellation of small sats or Tropics mission will measure environmental and air core conditions for tropical cyclones. I mentioned that earlier. In June also, there will be the SARA-1 launch. This is from SLC-4E at Vandenberg. The SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket will launch the SARA-1 radar remote sensing satellite for the German military. It is the first of 3 synthetic aperture radar satellites for the German military. It's built by Airbus. The Falcon 9's first stage will, this is different, will return to landing zone 4 at Vandenberg. That's different launch pad, everybody. Let's see, to be determined orbital test flight of the Starship at Boca Chica Beach, Texas. The SpaceX Super Heavy and Starship launch vehicle will launch on its first orbital test flight. The mission will attempt to travel around the world for nearly 1 full orbit, resulting in a re-entry and splashdown of the Starship near Hawaii. And I have 2 more for you. I've got a Falcon 9 SCS-22 launch from SLC-40 at Cape Canaveral. The Falcon 9 rocket will launch the SCS-22 communication satellite for SCS of Luxembourg, built by the South Alina Space. SCS-22 will provide C-band television and data services in the United States. Then finally, on June 29th, a Atlas V will launch from SLC-41, Cape Canaveral Space Force. A United Launch Alliance Atlas V rocket will launch the USS F-12 mission with Wide Field of View, or WFOV, experimental missile warning satellite for the U.S. Space Force. WFOV hosts a new type of infrared staring sensor in geosynchronous orbit to detect the heat from missile launch plumes. The USS F-12 mission will include additional rideshare payloads. The rocket will fly in the 541 vehicle configuration with a 5-meter fairing, 4 solid rocket boosters, and a single-engine Centaur upper stage. Now, you may find this amazing, but there's even more. This is about 2/3 of the launches for June. So it's going to be exciting and very, very busy month. Back to net control. This is KE5ICX.
Thank you very much, Tom, and appreciate you covering a lot of segments tonight. This is KF5CDS, your net control for this session, ARC Skynet. All right, next up is recent astronomical. So at this time, I will return the net to Brenda at WD5OZL. The net is yours.
Thanks, Billy. This article is entitled Physicists Explain How Type of Aurora Mars is Formed. Physicists led by the University of Iowa have learned how a type of aurora on Mars is formed. In a new study, the physicists studied discrete aurora, a light-in-the-sky display that occurs mostly during the night in the red planet's southern hemisphere. While scientists have known about discrete aurora on Mars, which also occur on Earth, they did not know how they were formed. That's because Mars does not have a global magnetic field like Earth, which is the main trigger for aurora, also called the northern and southern lights on our planet. Instead, the physicists report discrete aurora on Mars are governed by the interaction between the solar wind, the constant jet of charged particles from the sun, and magnetic fields generated by the crust at southern latitudes on Mars. It is the nature of this localized interaction between the solar wind and the crustal magnetic fields that lead to discrete aurora, the scientists find. We have the first detailed study looking at how solar wind conditions affect aurora on Mars, says Zachary Gerazian, associate research scientist in the Department of Physics and Astronomy and the study's corresponding author. Our main finding is that inside the strong crustal field region, the aurora occurrence rate depends mostly on the orientation of the solar wind magnetic field, while outside the strong crustal field region, the occurrence rate depends mostly on the solar wind dynamic pressure. The findings come from more than 200 observations of discrete aurora on Mars by the NASA-led Mars Atmosphere and Volatile Evolution, that's Maven, M-A-V-E-N, spacecraft. One of the instruments used to make the observations, the Solar Wind Ion Analyzer, is led by Jasper Halakis, associate professor in the Department of Physics and Astronomy and a co-author of the study. Now is a very fruitful and exciting time for researching aurora at Mars. The database of discrete aurora observations we have from Maven is the first of its kind, allowing us to understand basic features of the aurora for the first time, Gerazian says. Okay, back to net. This is from ScienceDaily.com. This is WB5OZL.
Thank you very much, Brenda. Next up is visible satellite passages over the next couple of days. So at this time, I will return the net one more time to Tom, KE5I6, if you'll let us about visible satellite passages from KF5 CDS.
Very good, thank you, Billy. This is KE5ICX. So let's see here. Let me pull these up. We have the International Space Station has several good passes. We have June 1st. That one is a minus, let's see here, minus 3.5 magnitude. It'll be at 21:48 local time here in Dallas. It reaches highest point at 59 degrees at 21:52 and fall at 21:53 to the east-southeast. I did miss May 31st for some reason. I know why, because it's just a very short, it's a high pass, but you can't see it very long. Next is June 3rd. That's a minus 2.6 in magnitude. That one will be 21:49. It'll reach its highest point at 35 degrees at 21:52 and fall to the south at 21:53. So it's a full pass, but a low one. And then June 4th, minus 3.6 magnitudes. This is really bright. This one goes over at 2100 local time out of the northwest, reaches its highest point at 2104 at 73 degrees, and will fall at 2107. So of the three that I picked out here, June 4th is by far the very best at 73 degrees. The Tiangong Space Station is also, back up here. Well, let me skip it. I didn't set it up correctly for some reason, but there's just one pass. It's relatively low. We've only got two Envisat really good passes. There's one on May 30th. It's a 3.6 magnitude. It'll begin its pass at 5:44 in the morning at the north-northeast, reaches its highest point at 5:49, and it'll fall to the south at 5:54. The next good pass for it is June 2nd. This is 4.1 magnitude. Again, this one's not so hot, but it's there. 5:33 out of the north-northeast. It'll reach its highest point at 5:38, 45 degrees, and it'll fall to the south at 5:42. That's it. I don't have a lot for you. I guess it's just the way that the sun is positioned with the Earth right now. We just don't have a lot of really good passes, so that's it from me. I can go ahead and take additional check-ins, so I don't remember if you asked that, but I will do that anyway. Are there any additional check-ins at this time? Please come now with your call sign, your name, and where you're transmitting from.
This is Whiskey 5 Golf Uniform Sierra. This is Gus, far northeast Dallas.
All right, we picked up one more. That'd be W5GUS, Gus, over in far northeast Dallas. Well, Miss Billy, I'll give it back to you. We're way ahead of schedule right now, but go right ahead. We're up to 24 check-ins. This is KE5ICX.
Thank you very much, Tom. Appreciate it. Yeah, so we do have some time. That leads us to astronomical Q&A. So if there's anybody out there that has any astronomical questions, now would be a good time to ask. We've got some time, so feel free to come now with your call sign and your questions. Just let me know if you have any questions. Your call sign.
W5GUS.
W5GUS, Gus, good evening. What question do you have for us this evening?
Well, good evening. W5GUS here. Well, I was listening, so there's so many launches in June. I was wondering if there any particular reason why that is. Is just something scheduled? I mean, something just happens to be coincidental, or why? I wonder why, if there's any reason for there's so many launches scheduled for June. You know, maybe the position of the Earth or something else. I'm just curious. Back to Net, W5GUS.
Thank you, Gus. Excellent question. I don't know myself, so if there's anyone on frequency that knows the answer to Gus's question as to why there's so many launches in the month of June, please come now with your call sign.
KE5ICX.
ICX, Tom, do you have an answer for the question?
Yeah, I can, and it's not necessarily the month of June, possibly, although I imagine fiscal year maybe have something to do with it as far as financing. There's not a mechanical reason why, or a celestial mechanics reason why. It really has to do with the number of, well, two things, really. One is the number of commercial enterprises that are out there now that are launching spacecraft, have rockets available now. We've seen now operational status coming out of New Zealand. We have New Guinea also has more launches going on because there's more operational parts. And of course, you have SpaceX, who's launching something practically once or twice a week. So this has increased the frequency of the number of launches. Another thing that's happened is the actual satellites are getting smaller, and therefore the cost of them is going down because you don't have a large payload. So suddenly now you have new customers you didn't have before launching CubeSats and small sats and things like that, and they can afford it. And so now you can collect 20 satellites on board a single spacecraft, share in the cost of that launch, and then the next group does the same thing, and another, and another, and another. That's all playing into it. So that has a lot to do with it. We also have a couple of new groups coming online. There's one, and I can't think of the name right now, that will be launching using kinetic energy, where they spin it in a centrifuge and then release it, and it's supposed to send it up into the upper atmosphere. And instead of having a first stage, it'll have what would be a monostage that will then carry it to orbit. Again, a smaller type of rocket conveyance, but it's new, and there's more to come down the pipe. And the financing for these things continues to go up because there's a real need and a want to go ahead and put stuff into low Earth orbit. So I think that's the reason that it's happening. Most of these systems are coming online full bore now and are beginning to fill up our month with launches. I hope that helps, Gus. KE5ICX.
Thanks very much, Tom. And I saw Chaz's comment over there that Starlink sometimes does 60-plus launches at a time. A few months ago, I forget which month, but I did, as my NCS topic, I covered spin launch. And you can read more about that on their website at www.spinlaunch.com, where they're using mass accelerator technology to send payloads to space. So that's a very interesting avenue as well. Thank you very much for the question and for the great answer. Does anyone else have any other astronomical questions? If so, please come now with your call sign. Hearing any, are there any check-in stations with any other remarks or questions? If so, please come now with your call sign. Tom, would you mind doing one final check-in round to make sure if there's anybody that wants to get in before we close the net? I would appreciate it. ICS from KF5TDS.
Very good. I'll do exactly that. I will take a final round of check-ins. Anyone who'd like to join us for Skynet this evening, please come now with your call sign phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from.
W5GUS here. Tom, thank you for that, your answer. Maybe these number of launches per month are going to become commonplace in the future. I'm sure they will. Anyway, thanks. GUS.
All right, thank you, Gus. And I'm going to go ahead and put N5IMS on here as well. That's JJ over in Carrollton. He's making comments, and I got several. I just mentioned this since we got the time. We got Andre out there. I can't recall his call sign right now, but he says hi. Clay says hello, and Bobby, I can't remember his call. They didn't put him up, but they're over on the chat on YouTube. So we've got a few other people listening in and kind of participating, or at least letting us knowing that they're out there. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and make it 25 check-ins, including JJ. So So back to you, Miss Billy, from KE5ICX.
Thank you very much, Tom. So tonight we had 25 hams participating on the air, so thank you to all who checked in this evening. We hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for all the other DARC nets. If you would like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls by sending an email to nets@w5.org. You can follow topics and discussion about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and Twitter, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful internet resources by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. So until next Saturday night, this is KF5 PDS, Billy, and I'll be closing the net at 22:26 local time and returning your repeater to normal amateur use. And 3, everybody, and enjoy the evening discovering the universe. And remember, following Skynet is the Afterglow Movie Net. So we'll take a 5-minute break and come back to discuss the movie. And remember, tonight's discussion will be over 1998 Armageddon. 73, everybody.
And that is exactly right. We will be back in 5 minutes to discuss the movie Armageddon. So go take a break, and we'll see you in 5. This is KE5ICX.
Normal state.
I'm completely operational and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow Movie Net.
Okay, time's up. It's 5 minutes in, so it is time to begin the Afterglow Movie Net. Well, what is it? You know already, but I'll go ahead and repeat it for folks that may be just listening or lonely or something. The Afterglow Movie Net involved is the last net of the evening here on the DARC repeater, and we talk about movies. We pick a movie. Actually, Brenda picks the bad ones, I pick the good ones, and then we talk about them. We talk about the plot, we talk about characterization, the acting, and then finally, usually in 3 rounds, the third round is what did you think about everything else? Special effects, music, something you forgot about mentioning on the first 2 rounds. We do that, and we just go for it. And so we take the check-ins and then go through the list of movies. Then I tell you what next week's movie is, which I think I know what it is, but I'll have to still look it up anyway. So that's the long and short of it. Now, in some cases, in very rare cases, where the movie is so bad or nobody saw it, we'll talk about something else. We'll just talk about a movie that's like the terrible movie that we watched, and we'll discuss the merits of that. That happens from time to time as well. But in the end, it means everyone is welcome to check in, whether you saw the film or not, and we'll do the best we can to just discuss the topic at hand. So, I'm going to give you the plot and the premise of the movie first, and you be ready to check in after that. So, what is it? Well, Wikipedia says that Armageddon is a 1998 American science fiction disaster film produced and directed by Michael Bay. Yeah. Produced by Jerry Bruckheimer, the guy who just did Top Gun, and released by, with the old guy now, Touchstone Pictures. The film follows a group of blue-collar, deep-core drillers and by NASA, deep work sent by NASA to stop a gigantic asteroid on a collision course with Earth. It stars Bruce Willis with Billy Bob Thornton, Liv Taylor, Ben Affleck, Will Patton, Peter Stortemeyer, David, and Steve Buscemi. There's even more than that, but we'll just skip those names. The film was a commercial success, grossing $500 million, $553 million worldwide, against a $140 million budget, becoming the highest-grossing film of 1998. However, the film received mostly negative reviews from critics who criticized the pacing and screenplay, although the visual effects received praise. All right, here's the plot. Now, this movie is 2 hours and 20 minutes long, very long, but the plot isn't all that elaborate. Here we go. After a massive meteor shower destroys the space shuttle Atlantis, NASA scientists discover they have 18 days before an asteroid the size of Texas impacts Earth, destroying all planetary life. NASA executive Dan Truman leads a team which devises a plan to have the world's best deep-core oil driller train a group of astronauts to drill a hole into the asteroid, into which they will insert and detonate a nuclear bomb to split the asteroid in half. They recruit Harry Stamper, a third-generation oil driller and owner of his own oil drilling company. Harry agrees to help NASA, but on the condition he bring his own team to do the drilling. He picks his best employees for the job: Chick Chappell, his best friend and right-hand man; drillers Bear Curling, Freddie Noonan, Max Lennart, and A.J. Frost, who's been dating Harry's daughter Grace over Harry's objections, and geologist Rockhound and Oscar Choice. Over 12 days, they train with skeptical professional astronaut Willie Sharp, who will pilot Freedom, one of the 2 shuttles to fly to the asteroid, the other being the Independence. Before leaving, Chick apologizes to his ex-wife for wrongdoing her, and Grace accepts AJ's marriage proposal. Both shuttles take off without incident and dock with the Russian space station Mir to take on the necessary fuel for the continued journey to the asteroid. During fueling, a spark ignites from a leaky fuel line, causing a fire. AJ and Russian cosmonaut Lev Andropov are nearly killed, but manage to get on board Independence before the space station is destroyed. On approach to their landing site on the asteroid, Independence is irreparably damaged by debris, and the shuttle crashes, killing all on board except Liv, Bear, and AJ. They embark in the shuttle's Armadillo, that's this roly-poly vehicle, to find the Freedom crew, which landed 26 miles from its intended landing site on a plate of iron ferrets. When the drilling goes slower than expected, Sharp reports to Mission Control it's unlikely that Harry and his team will reach the depth necessary to split the asteroid before zero barrier, the point which two halves of the asteroid would impact Earth. Even though it might cause the whole mission to fail, the President of the United States decides to remote detonate the bomb from Earth. After a vicious argument where Sharp calls Harry's team the worst mistake in NASA history, the two men agree to defuse the bomb and work together. They make progress on drilling, but when they hit a hydrogen pocket, Max and the Armadillo are lost, just as Harry Truman, not Harry Truman, but Harry, Truman, and the world believed the mission to be a failure. AJ and others arrive in the second Armadillo. AJ succeeds in drilling a hole to the required depth, but a rock storm damages the remote detonator, forcing someone to have to stay behind to manually detonate the bomb. Anyone want to guess who? Anyone? And after randomly drawing straws, the responsibility falls on, surprise, AJ, but Harry takes him down to the asteroid's surface. He disconnects AJ's air hose and forces him into the shuttle's airlock, telling AJ he is the son he never had, and he would be proud to have him marry Grace. Using the Armadillo, Harry gives Grace his blessing to marry AJ, and Grace says she is proud to be his daughter. Excuse me, I have to yawn. After some difficulty, Freedom takes off, but another rock storm causes Harry to lose his grip on the detonator. Just before zero barrier, Harry detonates the bomb, saving the planet. NASA and the world rejoice while Truman comforts Grace. The astronauts land back on Earth safely. AJ and Grace are reunited, and Chick reconciles with his ex-wife and his estranged young son. Sometime later, AJ and Grace are married. Generally, actually, they get married during the credits. Boy, oh boy, is that something or what? Now, inside of that, there's like 25 people in this movie, including, are you ready for this, Charlton Heston as the narrator at the very beginning of the film. There's tons of people in this film who you might recognize. Marshall Teague is in it. Ken Campbell. There's even what's his name? The guy from Discovery. He's in it too. I think he's got a 30-second part in it. Jason Isaacs as Ronald Swenson. Tons of people. All right, that's it. Let me go ahead and take check-in. I will now ask for your call sign, your name, and did you see Armageddon? So here we go. You may check in now.
November, Tango 5, Tango Mike. Tony in Dallas. Yes, I saw the movie.
November 5 Sierra Quebec Alpha, Ron, Dallas. Yeah, but it was a long, long time ago.
Kilo Delta Zero, Oscar X-Ray Charlie, Carter and Dallas, regrettably, yes.
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo to Whiskey J in their Whitford. I saw 3/5 of the movie today, and I think I've seen it in full, but I don't know. It's been cable and crap, and I've seen parts for sure.
slowly checking in. Let me give the list I got now. I got NT5TM Tony, Dallas. Yep, he saw it. N5SQA Ron in Dallas. He kind of saw it 1,000 years ago. KD0OXC. That's Carter in Dallas. Welcome, Carter. I got you down as having seen it. KG5BZWJ near Weatherford. Yep, he saw it. Additional check-ins, please come now.
Whiskey 5, bacon, lettuce, tomato, W5BLT, Bill in Garland. Yes, I saw the movie.
Okay, I picked up one more, W5BLT, Bill in Garland. Let me look over on Echolink. I think everybody is checked in. All right, well, I will ask for additional check-ins in a little bit. So let us not tarry any longer. Let us go to Tony, NT5TM. Tony, it was great seeing you today, and you were emoting about this film. I just thought it was really great. It's kind of heartwarming watching you kind of tear up about the very, very emotional ending to this film. But hold your emotions back and tell us about the plot and what you thought about it from KE5ICX.
Well, Tom, you were exactly right. I cried when this film ended because I felt so glad to be released. I think Shakespeare really got it right. He couldn't diagnose bipolar disorder or schizophrenia, but he sure knew what it would take to drive someone mad in real life, what it would take to push somebody over the edge. And the answer was, as Shakespeare pointed out, very simple: being trapped in this movie. I'm going to stray a bit off the plot itself because I have to go to bed very soon. But I would like to point out that Liv Tyler was nominated for Worst Supporting Actress. Bruce Willis must have been proud because he won his Golden Raspberry for Worst Actor. There were a couple of things in this movie I actually liked. I found a good smile at their nod to the way they tested the Mercury astronauts at the Loveless Clinic with the enemas and all the other strange things they did. They got one technical thing right. The way the space shuttle lands with its nose down shockingly far. Reading things about the approach and landing tests with Enterprise, astronauts had a very hard time getting over with that because normally if you're trying to land, say, a fighter jet with the nose down by 40 degrees, you die. But that's just not how the space shuttle works. So they got that view totally right, and I did find some good humor there in with the medical clinic and the enemas. But the plot holes, too many to count. You can't hide a giant asteroid. People will see it. Oxygen, they at one point pointed out, you'll get liquid oxygen from the Russian space station. That's your fuel. No, it's not. It's oxidizer. It even has oxa in the name. That's why we call it oxygen. In general, I thought the plot was just far too frantic, despite, shockingly enough, the movie being way too long. One tiger, or one giant shark, depending on what you're watching or reading, is a dangerous threat. 5,000 tigers, or I guess we'll convert this to metric sharks, 4,203 giant sharks are just an annoying pandemic. You can't pay any attention to them anymore. There's just too many asteroids everywhere, too much chaos, too fast editing, too many things happening. The train is going to go off the tracks, as it did. I particularly disliked the plot point of space dementia. I thought space dementia was worse than the space rabies in Howard the Duck, just as Liv Tyler was vastly less attractive than all the female actresses in Howard the Duck. I really didn't like her. She was great at staring without blinking and looking slightly vaguely serious, but really, there's more to acting than staring while not blinking. I'm sure of it. I've seen several movies, and in many of them, characters do not stare without blinking. The behavior, I don't know whether this is really characters or not, but I'm going to forge ahead because I have to go. Everyone was just too chaotic, too much shouting, too much screaming. Everything was just too confusing. Couldn't you have found some other movie to be in? And they kept up the shouting and confusion for 2 hours and 30 minutes. How did they even do that? There must have been so much dialogue written for this movie that it all would have written like, ooh, ah, scream, scream. Character A screams at character B. And the actor would have said, well, what do I scream? And the director would have said, it doesn't matter, just keep screaming. The most important thing to know about this movie is apparently an accurate quote. It appeared on the animated comedy show Robot Chicken years ago, back when this movie first came out, and Aaron and I had cable. In their animated version of this movie, the Ben Affleck little claymation thing says to Michael Bay, wouldn't it be easier just to teach astronauts how to drill things? And the Michael Bay claymation character just comes apart screaming and throwing globs of clay. That apparently really happened, except for the clay part. Ben Affleck was just so confused, but Michael Bay told him to close his mouth and go away and collect his paycheck. So I have to go. I will try to listen for a little bit longer, but the movie was too long, too chaotic, bad acting, bad writing, and actually the effects weren't, but there were too many of them. NT5TM.
Okay, thank you, Tony. And just for your edification, if you look further down on the wiki list, there were 9 writers for the script. Only one of them I recognize. That would be J.J. Abrams, who has penned space disasters before. I think they were Star Wars and Star Trek, in fact. But at any rate, 9 people, 5 of whom were credited. So obviously they had some trouble, or they just took everybody's script and glued them together. Next up is Ron, N5SQA. Ron, it's been a long time since you've seen the film, but does the synopses and Tony's comments bring back pleasant memories of Armageddon from 1998? Go ahead, Ron, from KE5ICX.
Okay, thanks, Tom, and thanks, Tony. I'm vaguely remembering Bruce Willis flying through space. Other than that, I have no real memory of it, so I'll bequeath the rest of my time to the next person. N5SQA.
Run away. Okay, fine. I'll go to the next person. Those 2 people have already dropped like flies. Next is Carter, KD0OXC. Carter, you saw this film. What did you think about it from KE5ICX? KD0OXC, you're not number 3 to drop out, are you? Are you there, Carter? We're looking for you.
KD0OXC, I'm here.
Well, welcome back. The question is, what did you think about the plot for, I have to think about it, Armageddon from KE5ICX?
honestly, there were so many holes that I can't even begin. Not the least of which, how they just decided to allow this one ragtag group to be the last hope and not have like 3 or 4 extra plans in place.
Yeah, I seem to remember who was it. One of our characters. I guess it was maybe Bruce Willis said Harry Stamper says, "What? You don't have a plan B?" Well, apparently they didn't have a plan B for this movie either. So okay, well hang in there. We'll be around for another round. I've got Jay, KG5BZW. Jay, your thoughts about the plot for this fine film from KE5ICX?
KG5BZW. Oh no, it's one of those things where you know how it, I don't know. You're supposed to turn off part of your brain or something, just kind of accept things as they are, which is kind of the case, always the case in sci-fi, but there's just so many things that just, I don't know how to say it. It's just got a level of ridiculousness. I will say that for the period of time that I watched it, it was, it didn't irritate me like films. I knew that this film was, I knew how it was, so when I watched it this second or third or whatever time, I knew to have very low expectations. I really don't know how to attempt to make it. It's like the plot holes are coming in so fast. It's like, wait, what about, I'm trying to see, there's just a number of inconsistencies that just keep on coming. Hello? Yeah, it's a weird echoing is not always transmitted. I get up for the lack of coherency with by just keeping everything up frantic and just throwing new stuff against the wall and see what sticks, kind of thing. And, I have to admit, it kind of worked on me. I don't know. I think I'll just leave it at that. KG5BZW.
All right, well, it's kind of hard to describe anyway. Next up is W5P Bacon, Lettuce, and Tomato. Bill, what did you think about the plot? I know you enjoyed this film, maybe, from KE5ICX.
KE5ICX, thanks, Tom, W5BLT. Actually, I'm going to surprise you. The blind guy enjoyed the movie. I know the plot is unrealistic, but if I look back on some of the science fiction movies I've watched, you know, Attack of the Giant Leeches and the Giant Spider and Wasp Woman and, you know, even some things in Star Wars. There are some things that you do when you watch a movie. Yeah, I think you kind of, if you sort of just check out and watch the movie, it can be enjoyable. I want to reset here. I think, though, part of my enjoyment of the movie was it was the second movie I watched on my 5.1 surround sound when I got it with my stepdad, and the first being Star Wars: A New Hope. And you know, I haven't seen it since he passed away in 2005, so I watched it about 4 times actually this past 2 weeks, I think, when you announced we were going to do it. Or you could say listen to it, either one. I say watch, but and so the descriptions that my stepdad did for me of the asteroids and things hitting Earth, and you know, he would describe scenes to me in the movie, and so that probably has a lot to do with my enjoyment, because we just sit down, have some snacks, and watch the movie, and enjoy frozen Diet Cokes and how much food we could stuff down. So yes, the plot is got a lot of holes, but it just brought back a lot of good memories, and so I appreciate getting to watch it again and again and again, and I think it could have stayed at 90 minutes, and that would have been good. W5BLT.
Well, thank you, Bill, and that's a great story. I will tell you one thing. It was interesting is, yeah, I had it set up, and, you know, so many of our movies have such terrible sound because they're like public domain or, well, we know it leaves much lacking when it comes to the technical prowess, especially with sound. And I set it up and fired up the stereo to do that with the 5.1 sound. It was quite fun watching it that way again. And there's not too many times I do that, except with a couple of programs. Most of the time I just use the television audio. But I did fire it up last night for that, and I thought it was exemplary. It had really good sound. Of course, we'll be talking about that a little bit later. But yeah, I agree with you on that. Let's see here. Now, I see Cruz is over on the chat on YouTube. I don't know. I'll tell you what. He says he's not going to talk. He's listening on his HT because he can't reach the repeater on his HT. But I'll tell you what. I'm going to get another check-in, and then I'm going to ask Cruz if he would like to run inside and talk to us and give us his comments. And then he'll be at the bottom of the list. I'll tell him ahead of time when he has to run inside. If he even wants to, he may not. But in any case, I'll go ahead, and before I talk to Cruz, I will take additional check-ins. Anybody like to join us, please come now with your call sign. And let me know, did you see the movie Armageddon?
Is this Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brendan DeSoto? Yes, I saw it.
Kilo Bravo 9, clear Oscar Kilo, Sean, Fort Worth. Yes, I see it.
All right, we picked up 2 more. I got Brenda, WB50ZL. She woke up and decided to check in, and it says right here, I fell asleep, it says. And KB9SOK, that's Sean over in Fort Worth. He's done with his late night duties on TrafficNet, so he's here. All right, I'm going to ask KI5KWG Cruz, did you go to the... You know me already? Call me out. I'll show up. All right, he says he's there. KI5KWG Cruz, your thoughts on Armageddon? Tell us from KE5ICX.
KI5, KWG. I pretty much said what I wanted to say. I think it was last Sunday when I was trying to watch this film, and I made the comment that this film was to science fiction filmmaking what Yoko Ono was to rock and roll. I don't think I can really top that. I got so frustrated watching, I put it on pause, and I just couldn't bring myself to going back to it. The plot holes already mentioned just got to be too numerous, and I got to be where I was hypercritical of every scene that followed on that. So I guess that's what I've got to say about the plot. KI5, KWG, back to you, Ned.
Okie dokie. Well, I was expecting a more, animated response, but that's okay. Probably the film itself wore you down. All right, next is Brenda, WB50ZL. Miss Brenda, your thoughts on the plot for Armageddon from 1998 from KE5I6.
This is WB50ZL. I love that comment, the Yoko Ono of movies. It's just perfect. My thought about this movie is that the chaos meter is taking at 11. Everything's in excess. There's too much shouting, too much arguing, too much chaos, too many crashes. It's like the bull in a china shop. You can't get near another object without crashing into it and destroying it. It just, I can't think of how many props that they destroyed in making this movie. I don't know how they've held the budget down to $140 million, frankly. But even so, it made $553 million. All I can say is there must not have been much else to watch that year, because that's a pretty good ROI, I must say. So, the sad thing is that too many people learn their science from movies and not from school. And I'm sure I think this is one of those case in point of why people don't understand science, is because they watch movies like this. Everything about it was wrong or questionable. And if we are ever in a situation like this, I hope those guys aren't in charge, because, first of all, they contradicted themselves. We got to have 2 bombs, and it's okay, well, we lost one. Of course we did. So we'll just do it with 1 bomb. And then, of course, it doesn't work. Nothing works. I'm really amazed that anybody was alive at the end of the movie. And there's some movies where I keep wishing everybody would die. It's not that I'm harsh or mean or anything, but yeah, I was really, you thought maybe if more of them died, this wouldn't be such a sad movie or such an awful movie if we get rid of some of these annoying people. And they weren't annoying. They argued all the time. They were irresponsible. They acted like frat rats, drunk frat rats. They get an evening out and they just go on a rampage. Like, they're just so irresponsible. Oh, let's see, what else? I didn't like Liv Tyler much. I think she's gotten her jobs because of her name and not her acting abilities, because I don't think she's a particularly good actor. For that matter, I've never been that impressed with Ben Affleck. And Bruce Willis is okay as an actor, but, well, maybe not. I don't know. Billy Bob Thornton's always good. There's no question. I've always liked him in movies. if there was music in it, I didn't notice. It was drowned out by all the crashes and explosions and fires and everything, of which there were so many. Way, way too long. It should have been at least 30 minutes less. All right, I'm going to pass it on. This is WB50ZL.
Okay, well, it's interesting because you went on and ripped up the plot and stomped on it and set it on fire. But that wasn't enough. You ripped up the actors, stomped on them, and set them on fire. We haven't even gotten to them yet. So, well, you may have additional comments on the second round. We'll see. Okay, next up is Sean, KB5SOK. Now, Sean always has very interesting comments, and I'm sure he has something positive to say about Armageddon from 1998. So, Sean, please go ahead from KE5ICX.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Well, I think everybody's pretty well said it. The biggest thing I think with this movie was it kind of started that trend in the late 90s of all these, disaster movies. We had the Deep Impact after this one, and, then we had the Tsunami movies. We had the, it just kind of set the stage, and unfortunately, it may have set a bad stage because all of them kind of follow the same bad science. As I said, the science is just really, 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 really bad. But this is one of those movies I think you just got to kind of spend that part. I remember watching this back when it came out, and yes, unfortunately, I was one of those people that went and saw it. In the town that I lived in at the time, we had a very tiny theater, but it was surprisingly named the third best theater in the United States. And just because they had the most advanced surround sound, it was one of the biggest pictures, and they always went all out for their movies. They always decorated the building. They actually had a giant asteroid looked like it was about to hit the theater. They always went above and beyond, so it always got the community very excited to see these kind of movies. And I remember going and seeing it and just being more impressed with the explosions and the surround sound and just the visual and at the end of it I came out thinking, well, okay, the movie itself wasn't so great, but I enjoyed the experience just because of the rest of it. So I ended up just classifying this movie as okay and haven't seen it since until this week. And I definitely had a different view of it now, obviously, because now I know a lot more about science and obviously, so yeah, you look at it now, it's definitely different eyes than possibly we did back when it came out as the action movie that it was. I remember thinking back then, this is okay, but now it's pretty rough. I still actually kind of enjoyed it okay. Obviously the humor, it was almost like they were trying to make it a comedy, but yeah, the science was really bad, and it definitely doesn't hold up. But then again, we have, I think it was maybe Teresa said we've seen a lot of these movies, a lot of B movies, with poor science as well, and so unfortunately it's been a trend in Hollywood, for a while. I'm not sure why these writers don't get experts to help them. But the problem is if they really made it realistic, the movie might actually be boring. So I don't know. It's kind of a tough one to call. If you just watch it just for the pure enjoyment of it, watching things blow up. But yeah, it was a lot harder to watch this time than the original time. And this time, about 2/3 of the way through, I'm like, okay, how long is this movie again? I did start to get bored with it, but it is what it is. It's just one of those, action movies. If you're going to watch it, you just got to shut your brain down. Back to that, KB9 is okay.
All right, thank you, Sean. And yeah, I know, I agree. So there was also Andre, who is K5ABA. He's one of the members of the DARC somewhere. I'm not sure what he's doing or where he's at, but he's out there. I'm sorry, N5ABA. That's what it is. and he appeared out of nowhere tonight, but he says, I've seen this movie at least 7 or 8 times and always enjoyed it. I also watched the core afterwards usually. I think I've seen the core once or pretty close to it. At any rate, let's see. Let me go ahead and make my comments. I agree with you guys. Now, as a space nut, I love space stuff, and I like my science fiction to be factually based whenever possible. In other words, the physics works. That the solutions that have to be found are done using real science in the form of fiction, hence the name, science fiction. But unfortunately, this movie fails on so many parts. One of the things that really amazes me is the fact that NASA supported the film. In fact, not most of their facilities, the underwater zero gravity thing is theirs. The big, huge vacuum chamber was also used, but it was also used in terrible films too. Let us not forget Capricorn 1 also used that same facility. But at the end of the film, it says NASA had nothing to do with the technical accuracy of this film. They just lent them all their facility stuff. So that came about. I thought that was interesting. And yes, I noticed too the O2 is an oxidizer. What the heck are they going to do? And why are they going to the Mir space station? And what does that all mean? It doesn't make any sense to me. Now, had they done something to extend the shuttle's capability, now this is a super shuttle, the X, whatever the heck it was, maybe they could have taken and done a launch with a shuttle that had nothing but fuel in it, perhaps, and then transfer the fuel over to the other shuttle and let one shuttle go to this thing. That might have made a little more sense because, let's face it, you can't change the laws of physics. But stopping at a space station that, A, doesn't have gravity, and they make that flimsy excuse for gravity, and he did something with the space station. I don't know. It's just kind of weird. Now that it's mentioned, I still have out in the garage the Mir space station as it appears in this film, supposedly, and you just throw away some of the pieces that are in the movie because they don't exist on the Mir, and I've never really looked at it, nor have I ever built the model, but I'll go back and look at it. It's probably worth a fortune now because it's so old. At any rate, maybe I'll go look at it tomorrow morning, find out just how different it is, but I digress. No rotating space station with centrifugal force, come on. The love story in this thing was boring. Every time it came on, it was time to go, make a bio break or go get some water or something to drink. Every time A.J. Frost was on the screen, it's like, ho-hum, Ben Affleck is at it again. Boring. And he was, right up to the end with him being boring during the credits. What did you expect? Now, Billy Bob Thornton, he's always entertaining, although he kind of understated it on this one pretty much, even though he didn't have a B plan. But he's always entertaining. If you want to see a really fun movie, and I love airplanes too, watch him in Pushing 10, which is about air traffic controller. That one's a lot of fun. It's not absolutely accurate either, but it's more accurate than this film could even hope to be. And he's quite fun in that. If you get a chance to see it, watch it. It's a good film. Let's see, kind of looking through the plot here, see if there's anything worth saying. This film could have been done in about 90 minutes, tops, and I'm not sure why they did 2 hours and 20 minutes. That made no sense to me because so much of it's the same stuff over and over again, and theater managers, you want something around 2 hours so you can get that last performance in, that last showing in. But when you have a 2 hour and 20-minute movie, now you've messed it up and you've reduced one showing. Even though they managed to make a lot of money off of it, it didn't make any sense. I mean, the Star Wars movies are infinitely better and more entertaining. Well, most of them. And they always come in at around 2 hours, which is what most movies are anyway. And the blockbusters are no exception. But why the extra 20 minutes? Made no sense because the extra 20 minutes added nothing to the film. The fact that it took them so long to find this thing, I mean, it's gigantic. We have stuff passing Earth all the time, and they tell us what size it is, like the size of half a giraffe. I mean, this thing's the size of Texas, which is a lot bigger than a half a giraffe. And yet they couldn't see this thing. They couldn't find it. And they only had like 15 days to do all this stuff. Come on. When they did when Worlds Collide, that film, they knew weeks ahead of time that there was something bad going to happen, and they prepared for it. And they did a really good job doing it, too. I mean, it was very cool, even at Constellations. That was better done, and it wasn't perfect, and it had a better ending, too. So why couldn't they go along something along those lines? I have no idea, but, you know, with a modern slant on it, maybe they should do When Worlds Collide again. I think it's in development hell. That would be a lot more fun if they could manage to pull that one out. All right, do I have any additional check-ins before I go back to the new top of the list? Does anyone want to join us? Please come now with your call sign and your name, and did you see Armageddon? All right, well, we'll see what we can do. I mean, there's not a lot into this movie, so we start running out of ideas and things to talk about. So I'm going to scoot down to KD0OXC, that'd be Carter. Carter, you got anything to say about the acting or characters in this film? That's the section we're on right now. Please go ahead from KE5ICX. Okay, I may check on him a little later. I have a feeling he may have dozed off. I think that's what might have happened the first time, but we'll see. Let me go to Jay, KG5BZW. Jay, what did you think about characterization?
BZW. There's just too many, really. I mean, I think when people were commenting about, like, why is the film so long? Well, I mean, how many of those were famous actors in that time? Like, I should have been looking at the IMDb, but like every single one of those I know have been in bigger and shoot. Anyway, regardless, yeah, just so many just top billing actors, and they all had to have their screen time and all that, I guess. I don't know. I'm sure there's some or there's some kind of clauses in whatever that have decide to equalize the screen time between all of them and you know, and get them all big bucks and whatever. And as far as I know, the film still did well, so it worked. I mean, we Billy Bob Thornton has been mentioned a few times before, and excuse me. Pretty good job. I don't know that any of the actors really did a bad job for what they were assigned to do. I mean, I'm judging everybody on the part of the film I saw. I know it gets even more ridiculous towards the end, so I don't know. The guy, it really should look at IMDb because there's so many guys. I'm going to be spending way too long trying to look at everything. So. Okay. Like Keith David's character, General Kimsey, but I think he's been a voice actor in some games I like too. So it may be just that my affection for those things run into what he did here. He tried to have some it was just so much variety that I'm not quite sure how it all supposed to go together. Isaac, he had that brief part where he, the smartest man in the room or whatever. Unless I'm confusing him with somebody else. I think, no, I'm pretty sure that was him. And then they had the blue collar, Chris Willis correcting about something and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. And, lay on and on here. I should have just ended with my first statement was just too many. That's just too many. It really was. If each one had their own part to play, and it actually made sense at that part, and that part, contributed to the next part, and that all worked out, it would have been fine. I mean, and there are films with a lot of characters that make sense. The overall story makes sense, but that was not the case with this film. And that's what I'm going to end on. KG5BCW.
All right, thank you, Jay. Next up is Bill. The characterization in this film. You've seen it more than any of us. Please go ahead from KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. I will tell you, I grew up in Indiana, and they took the extremes of rednecks and roughnecks, and I knew some roughnecks guys that later on in life that I met that had done oil rig stuff. And one of the things I thought was interesting is just kind of how they really stereotyped. But it was interesting. I kind of liked Harry's character, where he's shooting the gun and saying a man can work on with one foot, and just things like that. So there was some great one-liners. Let me reset. I liked the Russian at the end of the movie when he's asking them to stand back, and this is how we do it in Russian. We start smacking whatever thing that wasn't working. So I thought there were some great one-liners. Again, they could have crammed it in 90 minutes. And you have given me a way to deal with the J.J. Abrams movie, because I did not realize that he had a part in this. Now it makes sense. But I've never liked Star Trek stuff that he's had a hand in Star Wars. And I guess I took all my brain in there, and there's parts of it that I needed to leave behind. So I did get some tips tonight. And I'll have to go back and watch his other stuff. W5, BLT.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Bill. Let's see here. I did put Cruz in the lineup. KI5KWG. Cruz, if you've got something additional to say, I'll give you extra time to say it. Otherwise, I'll just move on. I cheated and I put you in the list. But if you're relaxed, that's fine. Sitting out on the porch, that's fine. If you got something to say, I'll give you about 30 seconds to decide, and I'll give everybody a break. So come on in if you're there. Only because I nominated you for most needing to tell us about this film. So if you're there, go ahead. KE5ICX.
KI5KWG, Arlington. Yeah, Tom, I was thinking it through, and kind of on the plot part of this, and why I quit about halfway through. I think that was during the refueling debacle, reoxidizer debacle. I found myself, I was rooting for the asteroid at that point, and that's when I said, I really don't care what happens anymore in this film. But I like Steve Buscemi, and I think he usually chooses very good scripts, as actually several of the others actors in this film do. So I was marveling at this, going, what did Disney have over these people to force them to do this turkey? And it must have been really, really bad. But I don't know. I went ahead and came inside and heated up it may be more interesting in the film. Thinking of Steve Buscemi and the Snickers ad, I came inside and heated up a blueberry muffin, lathered it in butter, ate that, and I feel much, much better now, but the movie was still a turkey. That's what I've got, so back to you, Tom. KI5KWG.
Now there you go, Cruz. You came up with something that's very practical. When the movie is just full of fodder, you can still watch the film. Go do something. I don't know. Get a degree, an advanced degree in something. Come back, and you've not missed a thing with the movie. Excellent. So I like that idea. You can make a break for it, come back, and still be able to have a conversation. The fact that you even admitted that you bugged out of the movie halfway through it, it wouldn't have mattered because there's no plot. So you could have just said, yes, I watched the whole 4-hour movie, and we'd all agree, yep, he saw the 4-hour movie, even though it's not 4 hours, it felt like it. And you could have done your bit for King and Country, and everybody would have accepted it sight unseen. But no, you had to say you bailed on the movie during the Mir space station scene. Well, everybody wanted to bail on this movie on the Mir space station scene, and only one guy on the space station? That makes no sense. That's another story for another day. Next up, Brenda. WB5OZL. Now you were ripping into the actors on your last round, though you can continue now. There's plenty of them in this film. Please go ahead from KE5ICX.
WB5OZL. Oh, I like that idea of the blueberry muffin with butter to help ease the pain of this movie. But I'm not sure that one blueberry muffin would do it. Probably going to need a whole plate full to make this movie palatable. This movie is just such a dumpster fire, in which, you know, it's not as enjoyable as, say, it's a campfire or fireplace. Although, well, I don't know. I haven't tried it. I've never actually watched a dumpster fire for real. But I think this is one, definitely. Characters. I didn't think many of them were very well cast or very likable. But most of them were credible actors. It's not their first movie. There are lots of other movies. It's funny, when you go to Wikipedia, there's awards listed, and they've got some good awards, or nominations, like Academy Awards and Saturn Awards, and then they've got the Stinker Awards for, worst actor and worst movie, and so on. I think there's a hot and cold thing about this. Obviously, it made money, so somebody liked it enough to pay for it, but then everybody likes to complain about it. Let's see, what else about the characters? What else can I say? Oh gosh, I guess I'll quit. I just beat them to death already. I was just really wishing for something better out of this movie. Back to net, WB5OZL.
Very good. Thank you, Brenda. And yes, actually, while you were mentioning that, I was looking through the awards, and I was going to summarize, and I will, because it really deserves what it gets. Okay, next is Sean, KB5SOK. Sean, tell us about the acting in this film and the characterization, or both, or neither. It's really up to you. From KE5ICX.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Well, unfortunately, as I said, these actors were, obviously well-known actors, and we've definitely seen everybody in this film do much better roles in other things. But, once again, you can only do what you got to work with. These are some pretty poor scripts, so therefore, what do you do with it? It's, like you mentioned earlier, the love story was just kind of useless, other than a reason for, Bruce to shoot at future son-in-law with a shotgun at the beginning. I guess that's supposed to be part of the comedy. Bruce Willis was basically playing Bruce Willis like he does in all his movies. Was not his best, but it kind of reminds me a lot of his more recent films that we've seen on Netflix, where he's just basically boning it in. He did a little more than that in this one, but it just, there's a few little parts that were kind of funny with him, but, he's just not a deep emotional actor, but I have seen him better. Liv Taylor, I agree, was not very good in this. I don't know if that was part of the deal, because Aerosmith did the movie, or did the music in this movie. There's quite a few songs from their albums. So I don't know if that was part of the deal. So they said they would do the music, only if they let his daughter be in the movie. I don't know. Maybe that's how that happened. Billy Bob was probably the best out of the bunch, I agree. But generally, I like most of the stuff he's typically in. Even though I've not seen that movie you mentioned, Tom, I'll have to check it out. Maybe I've seen it, just forgot it. In fact, I was just looking it up as Brenda was talking, and it looks like he came out a year after this movie. So that's kind of interesting. He said he was good in this one, or was one of his better ones. Yeah, just not a lot, unfortunately, to say about the acting. It just looks good, which was surprisingly with the cast that they had in this. But once again, you can only work with what you got. With the writing, obviously, so what do you say? Yeah, it's you know, the comments before, just kind of one of those movies. You know, and odds are we're probably get around to the next round, but yeah, a lot of the music was Aerosmith. It was, okay. It was no originals. It was all stuff we'd heard. There was nothing great there. And then the effects, parts of them was really good for that time. And once again, it was just one of those movies that really just made me go to listen to this, hear the surround sound. I'm sure I annoyed my neighbors when I watched this today. That's really about all I got. Back to that. KB9SOK.
All right, very good. Thank you, Sean. Yeah, okay, I'll make my comments. Let's see here. Bruce Willis plays Bruce Willis. Doesn't matter what character it is, it's always Bruce Willis. Billy Bob Thornton always plays Billy Bob Thornton, but he does a really good Billy Bob Thornton. I love him in everything he sees. He's in, and I think that in this film he just does a good job. I think the script could have been better if given him a little bit more juicy part that would more behoove what he does. Steve Buscemi, I don't know, I can never pronounce his name. We've seen him in everything through the years, and I really like him. He's fun to watch as well, and he doesn't disappoint in this film. One of the people I was surprised, I kept racking my brain, where do I know this guy from? His name's Marshall T. He played Colonel Davis in this thing. And he was a regular recurring character on Babylon 5. He played one of the Narns in the thing. He was the guard that showed up, I think, in the 3rd and 4th season pretty regularly, or if I'm remembering correctly. It's been a number of years since I've seen that show. But I thought he was quite good. Ben Affleck, he's a waste. I don't know what. Liv Taylor, she's another. It's just the two of them just came out flat for me. I just was not a big fan of that. I'm looking through the long list of characters here, even trying to remember who they played and how they played it. Boy, I can't really say any more than that. Charlton Heston was in it. He was okay. One guy, I'm trying to think of his name, who played one of the pilots. He was in Mom, I think. He did a pretty fair job in the thing. Oh, well, I don't know. The characters themselves, cookie cutter cutouts for your roughnecks and all of that. Somewhat entertaining. I think that if you're going to take these guys and put them in a film, put them in... What was the movie, the superhero movie where everybody's kind of average? Some of these guys were in that. That was pretty good, but I think that one kind of lost out as far as not being popular. I can't think of what the name of the film was. Oh, well.
Mystery Men.
Ron, thank you. You're still there. Yes, Mystery Men, which I thought was rather entertaining myself, but it did not do well at the box office. Oh, well. Okay. All right. Well, let's do this. I'm starting to fade a little bit, too. How about I do this? I am going to call you out. If you have any additional comments, if you want to talk about the special effects, you get to talk about special effects. If you want to talk about anything at all. The fact that Ron can't remember the movie, we can talk about Ron not remembering the movie. That's fine. Or if you feel that Crew's handy-talkie could be a little more sensitive and be able to talk on it, we can talk about that. Or if you want to suggest a better movie than Armageddon, by all means do that. Please come with your call sign and I'll go down the list. Let's do it. Please come now.
N5SQA.
Well, Ron, you may be the last one to speak about this film. We'll find out. What do you got?
Well, you asked if there might be a better movie, and I would suggest that Mystery Men is a better movie. And if you haven't seen it, it's charming in its own weird way. Kept my daughter laughing a lot. We actually own the DVD, at least the last time I looked. Anyway, that's a movie you might consider for future events. N5SQA.
Well, Ron, as I mentioned, I'm the same way. I thought it was a fun film, so I put it down and I put a little asterisk, and I'll see if I can look it up someplace where we may be able to watch it. And I will put it on the list if it's available. And I sometimes even put them on the list when they aren't, and I go back and I look for them later on. So, yeah, good point. Anyone else have any additional comments? Please come down. Okay, I think everybody's pooped out. Okay, I'm looking for the movie list to let you know which is next. I actually can't remember. Let's find out. Going to the Afterglow Movie group on Facebook. That's Afterglow and Movie, 2 words. And then what I'm going to look for is under the File section. It will tell me, and it will show me, as I'm doing right now, upcoming Afterglow movie list. Last updated the 22nd. So, let's see here. Our next movie is... Oh, lucky everyone. Speaking of J.J. Abrams, it's Star Trek from 2009. That's it. J.J. Abrams destroys space one more time next week. Available for free with ads. I will send out the links tomorrow morning. So look for it. If you are not on the list and would like to be on the email list, just send an email to me, Tom, KE5ICX@yahoo.com, and I'll put you on the list. If you don't like doing that, or you are okay with Facebook, not everybody is, you can use Facebook and go to Afterglow Movie and you can find the information there. And with all of that, I'm going to say 7-3 and good night and good luck to everyone. And thank you for your participation. Considering the movie was rather thin when it came to plot and activity, I think we did pretty well. We ended up about 15 minutes early. I could have taken it a little further, but I think we're all pooped out. So good night, everyone. Have a good week and a better tomorrow. See y'all. KE5ICX. Clear.
Hey, Tom, add me to the email list. My call at ARRL. Thank you. N5SQA.
All right, got you, Ron. We'll do that. I'll put you on. You'll get it in the morning around, I don't know, whatever it is, 8, 9 o'clock, something like that. See ya. Bye-bye, everyone. KE5ICX.
So, considering when I get up, I'll probably get it around 2. N5SQA.